books is in. The books are in. Yep. They in. They're here.
Log in to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harret Shawn Cognitive, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisa, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harret Shawn Cognitive, As I Learned, We All Learn by Kofi Paisa. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaTV.com.
E-Team Hotep, Randy Shawn, welcome and peace. My name is Shawn. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into Science with Shawn. Before we get started, man, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, that we're at it again. We're at it. All right, so let me share my screen. I don't know if we're gonna have any. Oh, okay. What's up, Robert Rand? What's up, Omar? What's up, Keenan? Peace to y'all, man. This was unexpected, man. I don't expect a lot of people to kind of be in the building for this one. I wanted to deal with something real quick, and give me just a second. You know, Facebook put me in Facebook jail for saying certain kind of people, but I was talking to the NOI. Dwight and them, they got me, popped me for saying Dwight and them name. So I had to do a little Facebook time on Facebook, about a week, over Dwight now. But it looked like I'm back, but I really can't even post in groups, so really I ain't back. Peace, Dave B. Nappyhead was good. Let me go ahead and share my screen, man. Yeah. Facebook ain't playing with us, bro. You know what I'm saying? I want to kind of get this in real quick and kind of deal with it. So we were talking about this the other day, and we really didn't get to the timestamp. So I wanted to make sure that we actually had this documented right here, this exchange. It takes place at the 2 hour, 2 minute and 35 second mark. I'm at 2 hour, 2 minute, 13 second mark. Remember, we're listening for First Work Media talk about the vaccine, right? And how his position that he actually play on the vaccine. And then we're really gonna get into the actual some information that just popped off. It's still popping off right now on Facebook, but let's go.
Time to speak.
Okay, well,
this is my time to speak. You've been saying it was safe, and you ain't proved it yet. You just pulling up some stuff that the people who are trying to kill us have told you. You just believe in them. You got selective. You're selecting what you choose to.
No. Vaccines have been around for 300 years, bro. What's been around? Vaccines have
We're
been
not
around.
against vaccines. That's the straw man argument again. We're not attacking vaccines. We believe
Okay,
in vaccines.
well, we're talking about this vaccine then, right? The
Okay,
safest
well,
vaccine.
this vaccine is experimental, and we're not taking
Call it what
the
you wanna
experimental
call it.
vaccine. You're
Call it
welcome
what
to
you
take
wanna
it,
call
man.
it,
We're
but
not. We don't
You
have a
asked me to
problem with you
prove
taking
something
it.
though, bro. I was finna tell you. I was finna give you some information.
You've been giving misinformation all day, bro. This is my turn. This is my turn.
Go ahead then, bro.
Thank you. So again, it's an experimental vaccine. We're not against vaccines. And if you want to take the vaccine, anybody who wants to take the vaccine, man, have at it. The Nation of Islam is just in the forefront of providing people with information, providing people with the balance from the misinformation, but not only from a scientific point of view, but from a practical point of view, from a common sense point of view. If these people, just the way that, forget about the science, just the way that they're marketing it to black people. They got DMC to make a rap video. They got people twerking about the vaccine.
Yo, who doing all of that? I ain't seen none of that this dude was talking about, yo. So let's run it back, because he all over the place on his claim, yo. He all over the place. Which one is it? I'm confused.
This is my time to speak.
Okay, well,
this is my time to speak. You've been saying it was safe, and you ain't proved it yet. You just pulling up some stuff that the people who are trying to kill us have told you. You just believe in them. You got selective. You're selecting what you choose to.
No. Vaccines have been around for 300 years, bro.
What's been around?
Vaccines have been
We're not
around.
against vaccines. That's the straw man argument again. We're not attacking vaccines. We believe in vaccines.
Well, we're talking about.
He says they're not against vaccines. They're for vaccines. But then they say this particular vaccine, we don't want to drop this vaccine. Yeah, he's confusing. He's absolutely confusing. And the Nation of Islam is against all vaccines, by the way. They don't want you taking none of the vaccines. Crazy, crazy, crazy. All right, so I see we got some people in the building, man. Let's get it cracking. All right, so here we go. I'm on Uncle West's page right here, yo. 3 hours ago, he made this post. He says, "The great debate, bro. Shawn of the Masawari clan, pseudo killers, Kofi Pasi research team, and Amarasco will be teaching the lesson in why one should never go against science. Join us because I will have my popcorn ready." And he's sharing Dr. Ma'at's invitation to the actual bill that'll take place on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central. What is that? 5 Pacific Time. Anyway, it's basically a round table. It's gonna be a conversation. We both gonna have time to speak on both sides of it. However, you see that there's 35 comments. So let's deal with it. I want to show you how people act. Brother Chavis, get his popcorn ready. Issa M. Haldi, this guy right here, look what he says. He says, Dr. Shiver Anyanduri, PhD, remember this, biological engineering, MUology should be there. He says this, right? So when he says this, I'm going to comment. All right, so I comment, wiki article, right? Issa Emeralda, V.A. Shiver of Yandura, born December 2nd, 1963, is an Indian-American engineer, politician, entrepreneur, and promoter of conspiracy theories, pseudoscience, and unfounded medical claims. Aryadur makes the widely disputed claim to have invented email. I say he's not a virologist, immunologist, or epidemiologist. Either. Nice try. Now I want you to pay attention. He laughs at the comment. Tinkle does. She always does this. She laughs at it again along with him. They think they got something. You posted a Wikipedia's entry as if this is facts. Remember, he says this. He says you do know his degrees are verified with MIT. So I go about Dr. Shaver Ayadura, MIT PhD, the inventor of email and polymath, holds 4 degrees from MIT and is a world-renowned systems scientist. He is a Fulbright scholar, Lemson MIT Award finalist, first outstanding scientist technology of Indian origin, Westinghouse Science Talent Honors Award recipient, and was nominated for the U.S. National Medal of Technology and Innovation. In '82, the U.S. government recognized him as the inventor of the email by awarding him the first copyright for email at a time when copyright was the only way to protect software inventions. His interest in human health began early when, as a child, he observed his grandmother, a village farmer and a healer practice of Siddhi, India's oldest system of traditional medicine. This motivated his future study and research in systems biology at MIT. Leading to his discovery is systems health, a major breakthrough that provides an integrated framework linking Eastern and Western medicine. His latest invention, Cytosolve, emerging from a doctoral research at MIT, provides a revolutionary platform for modeling complex biological phenomena to support the development of multi-combination medicines without animal testing. He claims to have created the email. We've seen this bull before and dealt with him last year, as stated in the wiki, is accurate. He's a systems scientist, not an immunologist, epidemiologist, or virologist. Let me go back. He says that the guy is a biological engineering immunology. That's what he says. Nowhere in what I read in this right here tells you that he deals with immunology, virology, or epidemiology. However, I put up a political argument that he's an anti-vaxxer and he's just against vaccines and he's a Republican, which gives him more, and he's just against Fauci. So he says, and then I say, I tagged him actually, but I don't know what a tag went. I said, exactly, you was wrong, and you didn't even have the integrity to say, my bad, I was wrong. None of that, Issa. That's a problem. Then he says, how am I wrong? The article says that he has several degrees from MIT. PhD doesn't mean medical doctor, and I never stated that. You should have asked the author of the article that, several degrees. Politico. Now, he refers to the political argument, and then he goes on a Google tangent trying to do all of that. This brother said that this dude was a biological engineer in immunology. He's saying this, immunology. That don't say anything near that. So why would we invite this guy on and he doesn't deal with the actual field? So I said, none of that has to do with immunology, virology, or epidemiology, Issa. You just basically reposted what I posted. You made the claim he was an immunologist, and he's not. Are you that thrown off that you can't tell his credentials are in the field of study? You see PhD or MD, etc., and think they are actually dealing with the subject matter. No, they are not. He is pseudo on the subject. It's non-information now. When he's talking about his field of study, he may be accurate. See, we don't appeal to authority. We vet credentials and information, and he's not in the lane of what you claimed him to be. Then comes on and says that ninja is pseudo. And then he says that dude was on Young Pseudo channel and only a pseudo will go on there. So he said he's a damn pseudo. Let's do a show on that fool. So Unc want to talk about him. You know what I'm saying? I done turned Unc up. Now, Issa comes on. How many degrees do you get? This ain't about degrees. It's about your initial claim. You claimed that he needed to be a part of a discussion with an herbalist and someone that is a science enthusiast and dealing with vaccines. Should it be safe? Why would we have him on the show talking about his vaccines for Black people? It said right here, COVID-19 vaccine, should Black people be concerned? Why would we bring an American Indian on who isn't in the field of study? He doesn't add anything to the discussion that me or the herbalist can't even add ourselves, because we would have to, we would be relying on him to say what? Like, realistically. So I said, why this dude promoting a pseudo this Issa guy? How is he pseudo when he has 3 degrees from MIT? Ask Unc how many degrees he has. Because he is pseudo based on his claims. Just because you have degrees don't mean you're trained in the field of the discussion. I don't think he understands that. I just clearly demonstrated that he's not qualified. Right? So that's Unc's post. This conversation takes place on Friday on Dr. Maat's channel. I hope to see everybody in the actual building. But it's clear that Issa suffers from cognitive dissonance. It's a term of the state of discomfort felt when 2 or more modes of thought contradict each other. The clashing cognitions may include ideas, beliefs, or the knowledge that one has behaved in a certain way. That's what he suffers from, because he thinks that he's right. He thinks that he's right. Now, we can pull this guy up if you want to, and we can go a little bit further with this guy. So let's see what return search we can get. I don't want to go to Wiki. People have a problem with that. I think this is his website. See? He's hyped. He's on here. Look. Live, the real crime scene of the election fraud. This dude is spewing election fraud, yo. Right? Yeah, he gets busy. He doing all kind of talking. I mean, you got to give it to the guy. You got to give it to the guy. A journey across East and West, science and tradition, ancient and modern. I mean, he talks about whatever he wants to talk about, and the reason that people have a problem with Wiki is because it's gonna draw him out. It's gonna draw him out. Very first part: any American Indian politician and entrepreneur and promoter of conspiracy theories, pseudoscience, and unfounded medical claims. Makes a widely disputed claim to have invented the email. He became known for a social media disinformation campaign about the coronavirus. I'll say it again. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Ardore became known for a social media disinformation campaign about the coronavirus, spreading conspiracy theories about the cause of coronavirus, promoting unfounded COVID-19 treatments, and campaigning to fire Anthony Fauci for the alleged being so-called deep state actor. In 2015, he published a paper that applies systems biology, which uses mathematical modeling to predict the chemical composition of genetically modified soybeans and whether or not they were substantially equivalent to unmodified soybeans. The paper claimed that GM soybeans have lower levels of antioxidant and higher levels of carcinogenic formaldehyde, making the modified soybean substantially different, contrary to previous research, safety assessments. Shortly after publication, he embarked on speaking tour of the U.S. at the National Press Club. He said that the genetic modification had fundamentally modified the metabolic system of the soy, disrupting the beautiful way of detoxifying formaldehyde present in non-GMO soy. Yeah. Covid-19 misinformation. Let's bring him in, right? Let's listen to him. Because he's going to tell us, because he has 4 degrees. Because he has 4 degrees. Mr. MIT himself, he can't be pseudo. He claims that he invented the email, yo, when he was 14 years old. Because he has whatever that damn thing is they was giving people at the time. But this is what I'm saying. Like, these are the issues and the problems. People want to introduce quacks to blacks. This dude right here. This is why he ain't got nothing but 3 mutual friends right here. I feel bad for his wife. All right, so we can go a little deeper on this guy if we really want to. He said some things. And last year, when his name was first brought to us, we did all of this. So I don't know why, really, we really ain't got to deal with this guy again. We kind of already dealt with this guy last year because somebody brought him to us. And we said it on the show when we started reading his bio and stuff. But at 14, he created email. So he says. Let's give him credit for it. Let's move on from it. Look who really invented the email, though. Ray Thomason. Damn, Google search killing him. He getting paid. Not a lot. Net worth $500,000. People misrepresent credentials. So enough of that guy. I want to play something real quick, just to keep people on pace with what's going on in the scientific community. Just want to share some things to kind of help clear the air. And let's just listen to some experts on the said subject.
From the JAMA Network, this is Conversations with Dr. Bachner. Interviews featuring researchers and thinkers in healthcare about their publications in the latest issue of JAMA.
Hello and welcome to Conversations with Dr. Bachner. Once again, it is Howard Bachner, Editor-in-Chief of JAMA. And I'm joined by Adam Loring. Adam is a physician, a PhD. He's an associate professor of medicine in the Department of Infectious Diseases, Microbiology, and Immunology at the University of Michigan. Welcome, Adam.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about coronavirus, evolutionary biology, and these new emergence of variants. I just want to remind people who are watching or who will listen, Adam published a viewpoint with us now almost a month ago entitled Genetic Variants of SARS-CoV-2, What Do They Mean? And then more recently, John Moore and Paul Offit have followed that with an additional viewpoint entitled SARS-CoV-2 Vaccines and the Growing Threat of Viral Variants. So, Adam, for my listeners and maybe to benefit me, let's start with some basic questions. SARS-CoV-2 is an RNA virus. What does it mean that it's an RNA virus?
Yeah, so at its basic, it means its genome is made of RNA and not DNA. But functionally, what it means is RNA viruses tend to have higher mutation rates than DNA viruses. And that's because the enzymes, the polymerases that the virus uses to copy its genome, tend to make more mistakes when copying the genome. And those are the mutations. And interestingly, SARS-CoV-2, like other coronaviruses, they're sort of a unique family in that they make fewer mistakes than most other RNA viruses because they have what's called a proofreading mechanism. They have a protein that recognizes a mistake and corrects it. At a biochemical level, they make mutations less frequently than other RNA viruses.
What would be examples of other RNA viruses and DNA viruses?
Sure. So other RNA viruses of note are influenza virus, poliovirus, measles, mumps, hepatitis A, hepatitis C. And then there's the retroviruses, which have RNA genomes, but they behave a little bit differently in how they replicate. And then DNA viruses would be herpes viruses, pox viruses, so cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr virus, herpes simplex virus, parvovirus, many others.
So has the emergence of these variants surprised you?
Yes and no. I think yes, in that if you asked me in February or March, would we be where we are today? I wouldn't think so. No, in that, if you think about the fundamentals of how these viruses evolve, it shouldn't be surprising that new variants would arise. I think kind of the extent of it all has been a little bit surprising. And I think that also has to do with the epidemiology and kind of what's going on globally with this virus.
SARS-CoV-2 was identified a year ago, late December. The genome sequence is released, which is remarkable. There's a genotype, and then there's a report that a variant has developed. We'll get to how that may occur. When they say there's a variant, what do people mean by that?
It's one of those things that the terminology is everything and nothing at once. A variant means it's just different, right? And so if you look at the genome sequence, it's different from that other SARS-CoV-2 virus. And so at its base, you can say anything that's different is a variant. That's the problem, is when do we say something is a variant and when is it just another sequence that's different? And that has to do with what we're paying attention to. And so right now we're talking about certain variants that have increased in frequency and may or may not be concerning. And so it's a little bit in the eye of the beholder.
How does your lab or other labs go about identifying that new variants would emerge? And why would they even test for new variants?
I think what my lab and many others do, we do sequencing of samples of viruses from people. And in the case of SARS-CoV-2, you get the sample and you sequence it, and then we compare it to other sequences and see how they're different. Initially, we were doing that a lot to inform the epidemiology because the sequences and how they change can tell you where the virus is transmitting and who's spreading the virus to whom. That's been something we've been interested in for a long time, and so we started work in that area. But now the sequences that my lab and many, many other labs around the world generate allow you to see how variants are rising and either rising in parallel in different locations, which provide clues, or in the case of tremendous amount of sequencing in the United Kingdom, people have been able to follow how these variants come to dominate and cross regions or across the entire country. That's very informative. And now we're trying to learn how variants are moving from one country to another using this sequence data.
So when you first detect a variant, does it immediately raise concerns that it could be more infectious, more transmittable, lead to more mortality? Or do you have to combine that then with epidemiologic data to know that?
Sure, I think more the latter. Sequence data on its own can tell you things, but it's much richer with the epidemiologic data. And I think another point that I think is critical is you're only as good as your data. And one thing that has stood out in terms of the B117 story, which we'll probably get to, is the United Kingdom has done a tremendous amount of sequencing. So I think it's something like 10% of the viruses in the country are.
All right, so real quick, since he's talking about the sequencing of the actual genome, the United States is behind on being able to do that same work that the that the UK, you know, European countries are actually doing, like finding these different variants. We haven't taken the time out because of the previous president did not even believe that this was a real virus from the beginning and didn't want to invest time, energy, or money into the scientific department to help us get things under control and advance things. So what I'm basically showing on the screen is you know, the RNA viruses, the different type of RNA viruses here. Just a simple search to back up what the doctor is talking about. All right, so now we know what's going on with those RNA viruses here, and then an image of, you know, the genome architecture, right? This map structure showing the family of it and how it all breaks down. The kind of like the taxonomy per se, right? And then the two variants, the California variant and the UK variant. See, we would have more information on if this thing is mutating in America, if that mutation is different than the UK strand, the South African strand, the South American strand, you know, and China, and of course, anywhere else, the Nigerian strand, so to say, right? But we're not a part of that database where our scientists aren't afforded the opportunity to actually get the data that's required to weed out if this thing is mutating in America and at what pace is mutating and transmitting among the population, because we were behind. But now that we have a new president, this is put in the new president's lap, and hopefully our scientists can participate in uncovering or diagnosing these mutations a lot faster, quicker, and you know, that helps us because that helps with the vaccine rollout, so that, you know, people are not having to get a third vaccine. I'm looking in the chat real quick. Java and Boca. What were the view of conclusions made by Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Richard is asking. The conclusion was good, solid information. After the 28th day, efficacy could be as high as in the 80s. That's excellent. After 14 days in the US, it was 72%. In South America, it was 67%. Against the new variant in South Africa, it was like 60 something percent as well. So that's good. That's good. That's perfect. As far as vaccine talk, Shaba Zulu says it mutates DNA. Also correct? No, it does not. Shaba Zulu has nothing to deal with your DNA at all. Viruses have their own genetic structure and coding. This is the reason why we were able to advance the technology so fast and get to work on the vaccine. So again, man, it's real technical. I know we talk about it and we talk over people's heads, but you got to really kind of understand things. So when that doctor initially was talking, he kind of hit on this already. Viruses with RNA as their genetic material, which also include DNA intermediates in their replication cycles, are called retroviruses. So a retrovirus would be an RNA virus that has DNA intermediates in it, right? And then they would classify that. Notable human retroviruses include HIV-1 and HIV-2 that causes the disease AIDS. And then, you know, that's primarily everything the doctor said that shows up also in the wiki article. You're talking about, all right, Chris, all right, so you got to slow down. Yeah, I answered that in the chat. The technology that went into CRISPR helped, but it's not the same. I said it's not the same. you would have to go back to an early Science with Shawn video where we dealt with CRISPR, right? Understanding CRISPR helps. Understanding, other emphasis, but it's not the same. And yes, if you go look at the episode with our brother Chavis and myself, we talked about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. It is a viral vector vaccine. It is not an mRNA vaccine. Viral vector is kind of like it's a unique vaccine. We call it like second generation. Then I asked, do CRISPR mutate DNA? Have you ever seen, Shabazulu, have you ever heard or read any scientific data that says that have you ever read any data that says CRISPR mutates the DNA? Like, I really think that, all right, hold on. You're getting us off topic with your question because it really has no relevancy here. But this is what you're referring to. I don't even want to use the Journal of Nature because it gets too complicated. Genome editing and CRISPR-Cas9. Also called gene editing, is a group of technologies that give scientists the ability to change an organism's DNA. Organisms, right? These technologies allow genetic material to be added, removed, or altered to particular locations in the genome. Several approaches to the genome editing have been developed. Recent one is known as the CRISPR-Cas9. This is all you know, which is a short, clustered, regular, interspaced, short palindromic repeats in CRISPR associated with protein 9. That's why they call it Cas9. All right, the Cas9 system has generated a lot of excitement in the scientific community because guess what? It's faster, cheaper, and more accurate and more efficient than other existing genome editing methods. Cas9 was adapted from naturally occurring genome editing system in bacteria. The bacteria captures snippets of DNA from invading viruses and use them to create DNA segments known as CRISPR arrays. CRISPR arrays allow bacteria to remember the viruses. All right, if the viruses attack again, the bacteria produces RNA segments from the CRISPR arrays to target the virus DNA. The bacteria then uses Cas9 or a similar enzyme to cut DNA apart, which disables the virus. All right, out of all of that, we keep saying the same thing. We're dealing with a virus. All right, Cas9 system works similar in the lab. Researchers create a small piece of RNA with a short guide sequence that binds to a specific target sequence of DNA in a genome. The RNA also binds the Cas9 enzyme. As in bacteria, the modified RNA is used to recognize the DNA sequence, and the Cas9 enzyme cuts the DNA at the target location. Although Cas9 is the enzyme that is used most often, other enzymes can also be used. Once the DNA is cut, researchers use the cell on DNA repair machinery to add or delete pieces of genetic material, or to make changes to the DNA by replacing an existing segment with customized DNA sequence. Genome editing is of great interest in the prevention, look what it says, prevention and treatment of human diseases. All right. It goes on to tell you more about which diseases and how safe it is for the use in people. Okay. It tells you here, cystic fibrosis, hemophilia, and sickle cell. It also holds promise for treatment and prevention for more complex diseases such as cancer, heart disease, mental illness, and human immunodeficiency virus, HIV infection. Then I asked, do CRISPR mutate DNA? I showed you. Where's the mutation? You didn't hear the word mutation come up one time. It's just not the same. It's editing. There's no mutation, right? But understanding Cas9 helped orchestrate you got it. Ding, 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 ding. mRNA vaccines. This is, listen, look, watch this. Let me see if I still got it in my search. I don't think I have it. I'm gonna have to go back and dig it, but I do know that I got it in one particular source. Oh, here you go. So the nanotechnology helps mRNA and COVID-19, right? So this is a article from last year, but we read this originally because CRISPR, the genome editing CRISPR-Cas9 to target organs, like this understanding, right? This understanding of what we just read helped orchestrate the understanding of the mRNA vaccines. It shows up here because of the nanoparticle, right? This nanomedicine, this whole coming about. So without the advancements of Cas9, we don't really get to mRNA vaccines. They're not the same, they're different. And no, it doesn't mutate. Peace, Jack. What's good? All right, Trimmers, be careful. Yeah, we getting beat up. But we really got to know what's going on with these variants, because the vaccine has to be evolutionary minded in order to, you know, train up the immune system to have that response, to reject, to prevent, serious infection and death.
That degree of sampling allows you to really understand things where in the US, we don't sequence as much. So you might see a virus increasing, but you're not sure if that's really reflecting its change or if it's something to do with your sampling, that maybe you're sampling a certain area and it's prevalent in that area. So it's hard to infer what's going on unless your sampling is unbiased and broad, like it has been in the UK.
And then you have to marry epidemiologic data with the emergence, say, of the variant in the UK to understand if it's changed the epidemiology of the disease, right? As a standalone, it's not very helpful.
Exactly. As a standalone, you can get a lot of clues. It's definitely much richer with the epidemiologic or even in some cases the clinical data that go along with it to really paint a picture of what's happening.
So now let's take a step back. You're a virus in the world and you're floating around. And then you begin to see people who are immunized, people who got some remdesivir, people who got some steroids, people who recovered and have antibodies. What's the virus doing to mutate so that a variant occurs? So make believe you're a Disney movie and you're the virus. What are you doing to protect yourself?
Anthropomorphizing them, right? If you're thinking about what does the virus want to do, the virus wants to be able to get to the next host and be able to make more of itself. That's all a virus cares about. And viruses are mutating all the time. Every time they copy themselves, they're making mutations. And you can think of it as trying out new solutions. That mutation is either going to make you a better virus or a worse virus. And then what you have is selection. So survival of the fittest, for lack of a better term. And, the viruses that have a mutation that allows it to do something better are going to win out over time. And what we see is, well, as things change on the ground, viruses might be better at growing within, certain hosts, or it might be better at transmitting from one host to another. Or as you suggested, then there's going to be an overlay of people who have immunity. And so the virus, may find itself in someone new in a more hostile environment because they've got immunity. And so it's going to make mutations, and that's going to change which mutations are going to be better or worse for the virus in that little microcosm in that one host. And writ large, that's going to really change things over time.
So then, obviously, just the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's really quite amazing. It finally seems like much of the world is catching up with vaccines, Moderna, Pfizer, J&J, Sputnik, Novavax, the Oxford vaccine, mRNA adenovirus. And then all of a sudden we hear you have a UK variant, a South African variant. Now there's a Los Angeles variant that we'll shortly be reporting on. Immediately raises the concern that is the vaccine effective against this new variant? I've made you CEO of Pfizer. You're also an MD and a microbiologist. So how do you go about trying to understand if your vaccine is still effective against a new variant of the virus?
That's the $64,000 or maybe $64 million question. There's two parts to that as I think about it. One is, what does it mean for a vaccine to be effective? What are we measuring? Are we thinking about vaccine effectiveness in terms of protecting the most people in the population, protecting against severe disease or not severe disease, protecting against infection or transmission? All those are different ways of thinking about how a vaccine works and whether it works or not. And then you've got what are called correlates of protection. And that is probably the early warning sign that a lot of vaccine makers will probably look at to see, okay, what's coming down? Do we need to worry about this? The correlate of protection that people use the most are looking at serum, looking at antibodies, and seeing in vitro in the lab, mixing it with virus and see if it blocks the virus from infecting cells. It's easy, even I can do it. And it's also pretty easy to get serum from people. And so what we see is a lot of studies where you take serum, you test it with virus 1, virus 2, and see if there's a difference. And that provides you a clue of whether the antibodies that are stimulated by the vaccine protect you or not. But then there's also the factor of, well, that's just one part of immunity. And you may not have a lot of antibodies in your blood, but you may have cells that produce antibodies. And so you may still be protected. You may have T cells. There's a lot going on. And so what you're looking for are clues with these seroassays. And, sometimes they're reliable and sometimes they're not. But what we don't know is kind of what's that threshold. So if you see your in vitro assay that you can only neutralize the virus half as well or 1/10 as well if it's a variant, how does that translate to whether someone is protected? And that's not clear right now. And I think we need to learn more about that as well.
If you have serum from me, say I had disease or I was vaccinated, so that serum is going to have IgG and IgM in it, but it will not have my T memory cells, correct?
Right.
And so that's what you were talking about. In some regards, it's a partial test. Is that accurate?
In serum, you won't have your T cells. You won't even have your memory B cells or your plasma cells that might, be important just for the antibody response. So there's a lot we're missing. It's important work, but it's important to recognize that it's a correlate. It's correlated with protection. And we still don't know, in many cases, how it translates to where the rubber meets the road. And is that person or is that population protected?
So I've called it the great pandemic of 2020. Obviously, people call it many other things, SARS-CoV-2 and Covid19, COVID-19. Is this just going to become a chronic coronavirus pandemic at some low level? That is the fear that people are beginning to develop, that we will appropriately vaccinate against the current variants. I've said yesterday, I had a chance to talk with Tony, variants aside, I'm guardedly optimistic for March and April. We're supplying 1.3 million vaccines plus a day. There's 55 million people older than the age of 65. Theoretically, at the current rate, everyone in that age group could be vaccinated by April 1 if they want the vaccine or at least get the first dose. That will dramatically reduce the rate of death. 80% of the deaths are in that age group. But that obviously is taking this variant, whether or not the Moderna, Pfizer vaccines, ultimately the J&J vaccine, are effective against it. Is that what you anticipate? Chronic SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus disease?
The Super Bowl is this weekend. It's where's the goalposts? Are we eradicating or eliminating SARS-CoV-2? I don't think so. can we get to a place where we're not confined to homes and not able to go out to eat and not have our kids at school? I don't think that's going to last a super long time. We may get to a place where we have annual, just like we have flu epidemics every year. We might wind up in a place where every year there's a time of year when we have a lot of SARS-CoV-2 around, and some people get sick, some people get very sick, some people die, but it won't be where we're at now. That's, I think, where we're headed.
Now, virtually all of the vaccines, adenovirus vector vaccines, mRNA, have focused on the spike protein. For the few vaccines that are more traditional heat-killed or manipulation of the virus, that would be less true. Do we need to think about vaccine development that's broader in its target than the spike protein?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I mean, I have worked in the influenza field for a while, and everyone there has been focused on HA or hemagglutinin, which is kind of the corresponding protein to spike on the surface, because it's thought that that protein is really important in terms of providing immunity or targeting that for immunity. But in recent years, people have learned that this other protein on the surface called neuraminidase, or NA, is also important. So vaccines that direct a response to that can also provide some protection. It is something that I'm sure many are looking at now in terms of other ways of combining antigens in vaccines, or different spikes in vaccines, or different ways of updating vaccines. That, if, as you said earlier, if I were the head of Pfizer, I would be thinking about those, and I'm sure they are.
All right, so let's just keep it real. Just keep it real, right? So we're very aware that we already aware of this. This is old news. We knew that the G614, remember how we talked about the G614 maybe 4 shows ago, where I was showing you how it comes up out of China and gets to the UK, and then it turns into D614. Remember, we were talking about these numbers and what they meant, right? So we're dealing with a evolving, mutating pathogen, virus. It's looking to kill you. If it can't kill you, then it's going to do more damage. What damage is yet to be seen? How about you go ask the basketball player, a professional athlete for Boston, Tatum, who had COVID, and he says he goes through days on a basketball court where he feel like he can't breathe. He has respiratory issues. What do you think COVID is doing to him? He has long-term COVID. He's going to have a respiratory problem, probably for the rest of his life, right? I don't know what could solve or do anything. It could become severe, his lungs, it could build up and be severe, and he has to have a double lung transplant like the asymptomatic lady who had caught COVID, had no reactions. The next thing you know, her lungs was looking like liver. And then there's Shesman. As soon as they mapped out the sequence, it went around the world. The internet spread it the world, and people with this technology that they've been, working on for 30 years began to create a vaccine. This was not on anyone's shelf. I don't think you understand how science works to ask a question like that, Shesman. When you continue to do that, you try to make it seem genuine, but we all know. Yes, COVID can affect your eyesight. COVID can hide in your brain. COVID can alter the discoloration of your fingers and toes, and also your skin. COVID can rupture your heart, as well as you already know about your lungs, your liver, your kidneys. COVID can increase your risk of diabetes, bronchitis, and cause asthma in many. COVID tongue. There's a lot of skin displacement or rashes. You're gonna have women now checking the palm, your hands, and see if you got them dots all on your skin. It's an indication of COVID. Like, what we're dealing with is what we're dealing with. We don't want to be disrespected, Shazmo. You're insulting our intelligence when you make these, you come in the chat and you say these things. It becomes like, but you had the vaccine because you're an essential worker. Sorry about that, Jack. Yeah, a lot of people have it, yo. So they're saying that the virus can hide in your brain, and that's what's causing people to lose their sense of taste and smell. What up, Mal? Hey, you still at work? Or you at the crib now? You home? One second, y'all. But this Friday we're going to find out a little bit more about COVID. As much as we want to know about COVID, so that we actually can address a couple of those things and kind of deal with it from that perspective. But with this new technology, it's only going to help them make vaccines a lot safer and a lot faster. Mainly because we don't need the dead strain. We don't need a week in the dead strain, right? It doesn't take as much time and energy to try to replicate a dead virus, right? And keep making the virus and then try to weaken or deaden it, and then put it in the vaccine. Like, come on, yo, like it's way outdated. It's so much. It's so outdated that it's just like watching a black and white TV. When TV turned into color, people didn't have a problem with the TV showing in color. There was no uproar about that. When the TV went from the tube TV, that people start putting decorations on top of, and advanced itself into a little thinner TVs, people didn't have an issue with that. What I'm saying is technology allowed things to develop a little bit faster and a little bit better. Now we're in the realm of 8K LED TVs. Some people hadn't got to 4K LED TVs. We're talking TVs that went from 32, from 32 inches, 20 something, 17 inches, 13, 17, 20 something, 30 something, 40 something, 50 something, 60 something, 75, 70 something. Now we're at 80 something, and now there's a 96 inch. You know what I'm saying? And that's what technology is doing. Technology is expanding that. Now look at that in the terms of vaccinations, and this is why I'm saying that. Look at the evolution of the TV, just like you look at the evolution. The evolution of the vaccine, just like you look at the evolution of the TV. It's the same course. Used to take a while to produce, and then they got better at it and better at it and better at it, and then technology advanced and certain things allowed it to come along, right? You're talking about a 10 to 15 year process, sometimes 20, depending on the type of virus, to shortening that all the way down to 5 years, to shortening that down to 4 years, to now shorten it down, and some depending on which type of vaccine, 2 years, and then shorten it down to a year. Waiting on Malcolm to see if he can connect his devices. He might be on the phone and haven't really connected it, but there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. What's good, bro?
Shit, y'all got it, man. Just sitting there. Didn't know you went live, man, until I looked and saw my inbox. Sitting there bonding with the wife, man, and heard the phone go
Yeah.
clean. Let me see what popped. You know, we over here in Memphis in this snow, man. Getting tore up. What's the topic, man? What you got up?
Jack said they would use this to control us more. He ain't trying to get conspiracy, but he says he thinks that they would use this to control us. I'm going to disagree with you right there. I'm going to disagree with you right there because, you know what I'm saying, vaccines, you know, it's that as a vaccine. We can refuse the vaccine. We just ain't got to take it. So there's no controlling us more there. I kind of understand what you trying to hint at, but it's not really something to control. You know, you're looking for a solution to a problem. You know what I mean? So it's kind of gonna be like that. Not to get all wasn't necessary.
Man, y'all done
Lipid
dropped so much information
nanoparticles,
on this,
are
man.
they not tied to the mRNA vaccine? Great, good question, Rich. You wanna answer that one? You wanna get into the lipid nanoparticles? Because you know it is tied to the vaccine. That's the technology, Richard, that is used. But you know, since we have someone that is administering the vaccine, I'm going to yield the floor to the brother, Malcolm.
Okay. Okay. He was asking about the lipid nanoparticles.
Yeah, he
So
said, I'm gonna put
the
there you go, right there on the screen, right there.
let's see, are they lipid nanoparticles? Are they not tied to the mRNA? Yeah, they are. The mRNA vaccine does contain lipid nanoparticles, and nano just it is not equivalent to robot, and many people have, for some reason, equivalated nano with robot. It's just a measurement. And lipid is pretty much just fat. It's just like little butter droplets, pretty much. You got a virus wrapped inside a little, very minor, miniature butter droplets. And you know, well, let's talk about the actual virus. It's actually wrapped in a lipid, I think a lipid capsid. So even it itself has that lipid layer around it. But your actual human cells have what they call a phosphobilipid layer wrapped around it. So these lipid nanoparticles that carry the vaccine help it to move right into the cell. So they help to keep it stable enough to get into the cell so that it can do what it does. If
Now,
I remember correctly.
let me add to that. The reason for that is because once it enters the body, it has the potential of disintegrating because of the temperature in the body. Now, it already is not going to last more than a couple of days in the body anyway. But they need that technology to help get it to where it needs to go, which is into the cell, not to the core of the cell in the nucleus where your DNA is. It stays outside. It works outside the cell, but it gets to where it needs to get to teach, and then it gets them gone because it can't survive that long.
Correct. That is true. Messenger RNA disintegrates. It is not lifelong or everlasting. And normally, messenger RNA normally comes from the nucleus, so it never goes back. And this process is called, and I don't want to get it wrong, translation. First you have transcription, then you have translation, or translation and transcription. Translation is from DNA to mRNA, and then transcription is when the messaging RNA, which will be inside these lipid particles, will actually go into the cell. They will circulate what we call the cytoplasm. That's just this gel-like substance inside of all of the zillions of cells that you have. And inside of your cells are these structures called ribosomes. Some of them are attached to what they call endoplasmic reticulum, but then some are just kind of loosely
You broke up on me, Mal. Right now they say the South African strand is a little bit more. I'm not going to say deadly. Let's just say more transmissible. The word that you're looking for, Shazmu, is more transmissible.
Right, right. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, you good now.
I don't know what's going on with this joint. But yeah, that's all the mRNA does. It just codes for a protein. That protein will eventually travel the cytoplasm, touch the surface of the cell, and that's when the shit gonna kick off. And that's when the body will start to elicit an immune response. And I mean, John, I've been breaking this down, man. I mean, every single day. I mean, y'all pretty much answered every question there is with articles, primaries, videos. I mean, I, I'm just, I'm just adding to the plethora of knowledge this man has dropped. The entire damn pandemic, the whole pandemic.
Yeah, yeah, we try to stay on it, man. So Shazmu was asking, how do we know and all of that stuff? Like, we know this because Unc played that video for you, Shazmu. It's like cognitive dissonance at this point. He played the video for you that actually told you what actually happened and how once China had mapped it out, that information went around the world very, very quickly for scientists. They got that information and immediately went to work. This is what all the scientists are saying. This is just not American scientists. This is Europeans that are dealing with this. This is a global effort by all scientists. This was the first joint effort that all scientists got together on. Like they literally think about that. The internet. Now, this is the difference between the Spanish flu and COVID-19. Because if they had this same technology that we're using today, imagine how fast they would have been able to resolve the Spanish flu.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have millions of people dying because it would have been people wearing masks, social distancing, you know what I'm saying? Staying in, working from home, right? Because people didn't believe in the virus and they went out and they contracted it because they were exposed to it more. But they had that technology, the word would have got around a lot quicker. They would have been able to do some things technologically savvy with. Really, social distancing would have helped with the Spanish flu and wearing masks because it would have made it less transmissible.
Yeah.
And people staying away from each other, that would have did all the while. Shutting down the border and all that, but you had the people bringing that stuff in. It was coming back from a war.
And there were anti-mask groups even then. In fact, one of them, I think I mentioned before, was led by predominantly women, and even your educated groups of people. I think the first group was like a group of 8 people, led by a female. I forget her name. Well, they call themselves the Anti-Mask League or something like that.
Man,
so, even yeah, history repeats itself, man. And then the science on this stuff, the science of virology and bacteria and pathogens, immunity, like this is not new information.
Mm-hmm.
This is stuff that's been in the books for a long time. It's just that the average person didn't really give a shit. I mean, you wasn't in a pandemic. Why would you care how a virus circulates if you don't have to worry about it? And so now, while this science seems to be new to many of the people across the world, they somehow doubt that it's real, when all along it's been in the same book for at least a century. And now it's looked at as being some cooked up science by Dr. Fauci in the heads of this and all. No, this is old. This is old knowledge with new technology.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Just understanding the viruses, and that goes all the way back to Onesimus. As far as America is concerned, it goes back to Onesimus. Because without that genius and understanding at that time, you don't get to the level of even creating a vaccine. You're still plagued out.
Absolute fact. Matter of fact, Shawn, you know what? And I said this on my post one day. I said, man, look, either nature gonna vaccinate you or you can come see me and I'll vaccinate you. The likelihood of one or the other happening is highly is a high possibility. But check this out.
You don't want nature.
Mom,
you don't want that.
You don't want nature to give it to you. We see what that's doing. It's killing 2 million plus.
Mm-hmm.
So, but check this out. Your own mother pretty much vaccinates you during pregnancy. She inoculates you during pregnancy. Like she passes antibodies to you during pregnancy and even afterwards when she breastfeeds you. She's passing you immunity. It's pretty much the same thing. The only difference is your mom fought the disease and gave you her protection against it. It's called passive immunity. Vaccinating you is going to be active immunity, or you catching the disease will be active immunity. You caught the disease and you produce antibodies to, or you caught the infection or the virus or bacteria. Let me not say disease because that's incorrect. And you produce protection against it in two ways. One is through your B cells, which will create those antibodies. They call B lymphocytes. And the other is through T cells, which also has a memory. So it's two systems actually fighting. And in fact, scientists are now looking more at the T cell section of humoral immunity and adaptive immunity, as opposed to just the B cell immunity. So it's, most of the time, and I got to get this out. Most of the time when the Black community talks about health, it's always through the food and the gastrointestinal system. But you have to understand, pathogens will clearly bypass your digestive system. Yeah, I know you got tons of bacteria in your gut and all this other stuff, but your body is equipped for pathogens that will enter your bloodstream through other means, or through your respiratory tract, or through other areas of your body that is not the stomach. So your body has to have a backup system just in case your gastrointestinal system does not meet that pathogen. And that portion of your body is called the immune system, or immune cells, which circulate your bloodstream waiting for foreign invaders. The vaccine will educate this portion of your body to respond and produce antibodies just in case you meet the real deal. This shit is genius.
Correct.
It's genius.
And yeah, they have a cure for cancer. That's why they giving kids the HPV. That's a cancer, ain't it?
Yep.
So
definitely turned into that.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I took my he was 12 at the time, but he was going to school, so before school started, he had to have the HPV. They're trying to give it to kids before they really are sexually active. You feel me? And all the other stuff.
Facts.
Chesman said, yeah, he says cures cost money most of the times in this world. Well, what it is we're looking for a preventative, right? You can't cure a virus. I want think about what I'm saying. You cannot cure a virus, right? So if like you hear this always said that you hear Unc saying this, let doctors and nurses and everybody stop washing their hands and taking all those precautionary measures that they take. We're going to see an increase in MMR, possibly potentially polio, and other viruses that have been eradicated. Nah, we don't rock with the eugenics claims around here, or the depopulation claim. That's not really a substantial argument right there. You would have to show the actual, what are they trying to depopulate for? You know what I mean? I think that's all misunderstood.
Right. And then the easy way to depopulate a people is just
I don't want
to water.
Yeah.
But I will say this: the the thing about this virus, the interesting thing about this virus is that it's just deadly enough to kill, but but transmissible enough to infect multiple people. So whereas you may have the Ebola virus, which is what killing people, 1 out of 2 people, or maybe a little less, plus or minus, it was killing people before they was able to transmit the virus. This one is allowing people to transmit the virus and killing people along the way.
Man.
And will pass from person to person through communication. Dude, this shit crazy.
Yep.
Talking.
Yeah.
Singing.
Talking.
This shit crazy, man. Nature is not playing with us, man.
No, bro. No, it's not. It's telling us right now what's going. It's literally telling us. It's saying that, listen, man, I'm in total control. Y'all think y'all got control, but I'm in total control.
Facts.
What up, Gullah? Peace. But he said Jack peace of peace. Let me see. Now we don't want to ask you that question. We're really not concerned on why you haven't. Richard said, I would like you to come back to the term nano, just meaning small. Isn't in vaccine making nanotechnology is being used? So yeah, nano just be small particles.
Mm-hmm.
Just small, yeah, just stick right there, Richard. Small particles, right? Very, 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 very small particles are used to help get the messenger where it needs to go. That's it. Exactly what Zion says. That's a better way to say it. That's a better way to say it. Measurement. Yeah. Because that would be more accurate. Yeah. Scientifically, that's more accurate measurement.
Mm-hmm. Like millimeter,
Yeah,
nanometer.
these questions are ridiculously crazy. Yeah, let me see if I can find y'all a quick little. I want to see if I can share it with you real quick. So I can do this one right here because we did it before. So I want to. This one got a commercial with it. So just let me get through with this, and then I'll show y'all.
Shawn, y'all getting any snow up there, man?
Man, it's snow all on the ground, bro, and it ain't stopping. You know what I mean? I got out in it today. I waited a couple of days, but I got out in it today. I had to get some drink, some juice and stuff. But I got out in it today. Like, all right, so I'm gonna show this real quick. I don't know if there's no music to it or nothing.
Vaccines prepare the immune system, getting it ready to fight disease-causing organisms called pathogens. A vaccine is introduced to the body to mimic infection, triggering the body to produce antibodies against the pathogen, but without causing the illness. Conventional vaccines usually contain a weakened or inactivated pathogen, or a piece of a protein produced by the pathogen called an antigen. RNA vaccines are a new generation of vaccines. Instead of the antigen itself, RNA vaccines contain a messenger RNA, mRNA, that encodes for the antigen. Once inside the body's cells, the mRNA is translated into protein, the antigen, by the same process the cells use to make their own proteins. The antigen is then displayed on the cell surface where it is recognized by the immune system. From here, the sequence of events is similar to that of a conventional vaccine. Some RNA vaccines also contain additional mRNA coding for an enzyme, which, after being translated in host cells, can generate multiple copies of the antigen encoding mRNA. This essentially amplifies the production of antigen from a small amount of vaccine, making the vaccine more effective. These are called self-amplifying RNA vaccines. RNA vaccines are easier and safer to produce than conventional vaccines. This is because mRNA molecules can be synthesized in a cell-free system using a DNA template with a sequence of the pathogen. While conventional vaccines usually require a more complicated and risk-prone process of growing large amounts of infectious pathogens in chicken eggs or other mammalian cells. Without the risks of being contaminated by infectious elements or allergens from egg cultures, RNA vaccines are also safer for patients. Because protein synthesis occurs in the cytoplasm, RNA molecules do not need to enter the nucleus, so the possibility of them integrating into the host cell genome is low. RNA strands are usually degraded by cellular enzymes once the protein is made. The relative simplicity of the production process makes it easier to standardize and scale, enabling rapid responses to emerging pandemics. Other advantages include lower production costs and the ease of tweaking RNA sequences to adapt to rapidly mutating pathogens. On the minus side, it can be challenging to deliver mRNA effectively to the cells, since RNA sequences and secondary structures may be recognized and destroyed by the innate immune system as soon as they are administered intravenously. These limitations can be overcome by optimizing codons, using modified nucleosides to avoid recognition, and packaging RNA into protective nanoparticles. Another disadvantage is that most RNA vaccines require uninterrupted refrigeration for transportation and storage, which can be a hurdle for vaccine distribution.
All right, so that sums up basically everything that we've been saying this whole time, but I wanted to get into Johnson & Johnson. Sheesh. So I guess they're going to play music the whole time. All right, look. Yeah, they're going to play music, so I'm going to slow this down because it's only a minute and 40 seconds. This is how Johnson & Johnson vaccine work. Cool. It's a viral vector vaccine. Adenoviruses, you need to look them up. Or you can go back and watch the other show that we did, Brother Chavis. The virus can no longer replicate. The spike gene is added. The viral vector carrying coronavirus gene in Johnson & Johnson goes into the arm. Delivers the coronavirus spike gene to the nucleus of the antigen-presenting cell. This is telling you where it's going. It is reverse. Whereas the mRNA stays outside the cell, the viral vector actually goes into where it needs to go, and then the messenger is then transmitted. The process is totally different from mRNA vaccines. Totally different. It's the opposite. And it's a one shot. And that's the reason for it, because where it goes, it travels further than the mRNA, the messenger. And then it just tells a different story. But that's that and that, man. But yeah, man, I've been on here almost an hour and a half. I ain't want to go too far, too long. Richard, you still talking about the same thing. Lipid nanoparticles is the same. It says it's not just the system of measurement. Y'all just having I don't even want to get into all of that. But man, in closing, Mal, you got anything, no brother?
Man, not much, man. Just keep doing your thing, man. Y'all be sourcing it up. Video. Man, y'all presented enough information to make all of us scholars, man. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, we just trying to be a level of experts, bro.
Countless information, man. I like I said, I got on late, so I may have missed a lot. But I'll definitely be tuned in on the other upcoming shows. But To my people, remember,
Friday,
stay
man, we gonna
educated.
be on Dr. Maya Friday.
You know I'm tuning in. No
Yeah,
question, no
she
doubt.
said 7 p.m. I'm gonna be talking with a with that herbalist.
Kitty,
Yeah,
Awedu.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he,
We're gonna
he, he been
build
he
on
been
that.
around for a little minute.
Mm-hmm.
He been around for a little minute.
He said HIV ain't real, AIDS ain't real.
Oh man. Oh wow. Oh wow. He don't believe in the germ theory or whatever that. I think that's what they term, how they term it.
I don't want to bring that
Yeah,
up.
yeah, I'm telling you.
I'm not even really focusing in on him. But
Right.
Ricardo, peace, good brother. Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm gonna keep his bite size so people can go back. I mean, we started the show off talking about, you know what I'm saying. I wanted to play that clip that people had missed about the NOI brother confusing or conflating vaccines to we are for him, but we ain't for him. He confused all of that. And then I wanted to talk about cognitive dissonance, and I showed an example of that on Facebook on Onk's page where a brother's on there right now arguing me up and down about this Indian American guy being an immunologist because he's got all these degrees. He's got to be an expert in the field, and I'm like, none of his degrees are in the field that we're discussing, so it brings no relevance to the conversation. And then we transmit it into the JAMA Network bill where they talked about the variants, and I just wanted to show a little information and just keep people abreast of what's actually going on. But man, I ain't gonna hold y'all up, man. I've been having a headache all day. It's kind of like a sinus one.
Oh man.
Yeah, because my eye been hurting.
Oh, man.
So I'm finna put some more drops in my eyes. I done already popped a couple Tylenol. And then I'm just pass out on y'all, man. But on that note, man, peace, y'all. I might go live tomorrow night. Tomorrow night I might go live. I just wanted to come on and have a little brief conversation, and you know what I'm saying, get some going. I wasn't expecting a lot of people to actually show up, but you actually did. Absolutely, yeah. They need to watch the Appeal to Authority video by CK Deport on the pseudo killers. Check that out. Check that out. And on that note, y'all already know how it goes.
Log in to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harret Shawn Cognitive, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisa, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harret Shawn Cognitive, As I Learned, We All Learn by Kofi Paisa. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaTV.com.